Now let us start with today's episode. Now what are the learning objectives? The learning objectives, first at the end of this lesson we will be knowing that what are fats, what are the sources of fats, what are saturated fats and unsaturated fats, and what are the functions of fat. Now what are fats? Now if you remember the previous post, we have already told that carbohydrates are compounds of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Here fats are also compounds of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen like carbohydrates. But what is the difference here? Carbon and hydrogen is more in amount than oxygen. But in carbohydrates we have seen that hydrogen and oxygen are always in a ratio of 2:1. So children, you all remember that carbon and hydrogen here will always be more and oxygen will always be less. Whereas in carbohydrates, always the hydrogen and oxygen was in a ratio of 2:1. Now, we all know that fat is insoluble in water. Now, if you take a glass of water and try to mix mustard oil, coconut oil, or butter or ghee in it, will it be soluble? No. That part, that ghee, that butter, that oil, that coconut oil, mustard oil, sunflower oil, whatever oil you are using, that will float on the top of this water. So, water and fats are always insoluble. So they are soluble in solvents like mostly chloroform, benzene and acetone. Is it clear? So they are soluble in some solvents that are chloroform, benzene and acetone. But water is not at all a solvent for fats. Though we know that carbohydrates like glucose, they dissolve in water. But fats, they don't dissolve in water. Now next let us come to the sources of fats. Now all the common sources of fats we all know, that is butter, ghee, cheese, we all know this, right? Cooking oil we can divide into mustard oil, groundnut oil, coconut oil, whatever oil we are using, milk, egg yolk, meat, nuts and soybean. So this is soybean. So this all are the sources of fats which are used in our diet. So this is called dietary fats. These all what they are called? In a simple name we can call them, these are all dietary fats. So is it clear? So these all what we are using are called dietary fats. Now let us move on to the next slide. So what are the two types of fats? Mainly there are saturated fats and unsaturated fats. Saturated and unsaturated. Now what does this term saturated fats mean? Now saturated fats, they have a melting point which is higher than the room temperature. That is, these fats are always solid at room temperature as their melting point is higher than room temperature. Now have you seen a butter at room temperature which is liquid? No. You need to heat it. Ghee? No, its melting point is higher than room temperature. Vanaspati. So these all are saturated fats. Now one important thing is that we should know this saturated fatty acids or saturated fats, they easily convert into cholesterol. So they convert into cholesterol. So what happens if you are taking too much, huge amount of these saturated fats? What will happen? It will cause high blood pressure and heart disorder. How? Because it will cause the thickening of the walls of arteries. Or it will cause a disease called atherosclerosis. The disease is called atherosclerosis. Okay, so that atherosclerosis, what is that disease? That is the thickening of the walls of the arteries. So the path of the flow of blood will decrease. So it will create high blood pressure, and the heart disorder is the main cause of those people who are taking high amount of saturated fat. So when we are consuming fat, we should keep in mind that we should reduce our consumption of saturated fat. And what we should take? We are taking generally in cooking oils, mustard oil, coconut oil, groundnut oil, whatever it is, these fats have a melting point less than room temperature. So all the fats that are cooking oil and all, they are liquid at room temperature. When we are going to a kitchen and using a cooking oil, no need to melt it and then use it. So it is always in a form which is always liquid. It is never a solid thing. So that is a unsaturated fat. That is not so much harmful. So what are the unsaturated fatty acids? Like they are all vegetable oils, mustard, groundnut, sunflower oil, etc. Peanut oil, everything is a unsaturated fat example. So this saturated fat, they get converted to cholesterol very fast, and that leads to atherosclerosis, which is a disease where the thickening of the walls of arteries happen. So is it clear to everyone? So now we will move on to the functions of fat. Now what are the important functions of fat? So essential absorption of fat soluble vitamins are always depending on the fat. So what they are doing? Fats are always essential for the absorption of fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K. If fat is not present, this fat soluble vitamins will not get absorbed to your body. So you should have adequate amount of fat for the absorption of these vitamins A, D, E and K. Now this fat, they provides padding around the vital organs. Now if you are having a fatless body, your vital organs will not have a padding around them, and they'll get hurt if you fall, if you are having any accident. So that padding part around the vital organs will not be present. Now fat is the richest source of energy. Now fat helps in the synthesis of vitamin D, sex, as well as the adrenal hormones called the steroid hormones. Okay, I have already taught you that lesson. Go through it. So there is a video I have taught in a video of endocrine system and hormone for 10th standard. If you want, you can refer to that, where I have already taught about the hormones, steroid hormone, adrenal hormones and all. So refer to that if you are not getting it. And it helps this fats help in the synthesis of adrenal hormone, vitamin D, as well as the sex hormones. Now fats always acts as insulator and protects the body against cold weather and pressure by retaining the body heat. So is it clear? They help to maintain the heat of the body, retain the heat of the body as an insulator. So what is the work of an insulator? It protects the heat from going out of the body. So the body heat will be retained within. So fat also acts as an insulator, and it protects the body from feeling too cold. And another use of fat, we can say that fats can be stored in the body for subsequent uses, like for emergency uses when you need energy. If they are stored in the body, they'll provide you with adequate amount of energy. Now, how much energy does 1 gram of fat produce? So 1 gram of fat on oxidation provides 37 kilojoule of energy. So 1 gram, from 1 gram of fat we get 37 kilojoule of energy. Okay, kilojoule of energy we are giving. So 1 molecule of fat releases 9.45 kilocalorie of energy. So remember these facts and these things, because these will be coming in your short questions. So there are several questions like give two examples of this or that and all, write two functions of fats. So in the previous part also, when I have taught carbohydrates, you can have some questions like give two examples of monosaccharides and two examples of disaccharides. So if you are going through each and every part of my video very clearly and very carefully, then you will know each and every answer. So please go through them, and don't forget to just read your textbook once, so that whatever textbook you are referring, you will get through everything, and the idea for this lesson, this part will be clear. And when I am coming with the next topic or the next part, if this part is clear, I'll refer to this part, then it will be clear for you in the next part. So I think till now it is clear to everyone. As of now, I'm ending this topic, and I'll come back with the next part, that is proteins, vitamins and minerals. So thank you everyone once again, and keep on sharing and subscribing to my channel to get the updates.